big part of why we're doing this series is it's as we're older now, we like to rewatch these movies, and we want to give that extra context of how anomalistic this film series is, with the cast consistency, with the smart choices that Columbus made early on that really just paid off, and the fact that like most of those kids, by and large, ended up okay.
Yeah.
Like
no one killed anyone.
No one killed anyone. Welcome back to the Break Room. We have just kicked off another rewatch series on New Rockstars, this time diving through some holiday favorites, the Harry Potter films from 2001 through 2011, the 8 of them. And we decided it might be fun to talk about the process of writing these breakdowns, discoveries we made while revisiting this movie and the material, answering your questions. So Evan said to call it Breaking the Breakdown. We're not sold on that.
Oh.
I actually like Breaking the Breakdown now that I'm reading it. Evan, give yourself a pat on the back.
Well,
10 points to Evan.
The title right now, if you're watching live, is Behind the Breakdown versus Breaking the Breakdown. I'll run it as a poll. We'll see.
Oh, do it.
Help us choose.
But now they know your preference, so they're going to show Evan favoritism.
Let's see.
Also, Evan putting words in Erik's mouth of we're not entirely convinced of this title is very funny to me.
I didn't know how you all
I make Erik a skeptic.
Some dummy came up with this title. I don't know about it.
I like it. Introducing ourselves, I'm Erik Voss. Joining me today are Gina, Ippolito, and John Costa.
Oh, I'm the only one wearing any type of Hogwarts colors.
Yeah. I'm wearing a Fantastic Four shirt.
My
classic Hufflepuff behavior.
My shirt is full of crimes and of the Grindelwald variety.
What are his crimes?
I should say I am the least qualified person to be. We can't talk
shut
about
your
crimes.
mouth, John. You're
I'm coming at this from the audience's perspective.
Yes.
Gina and Erik were both the people who wrote this breakdown. All I did for the breakdown was ask the editors to make some fancy titles, and they did a great job.
And then you watched it.
And I watched it. I've read these books. I've seen these movies.
And you are like a lot of the people joining us in the chat right now.
Dummies.
Yeah.
No, I didn't call you dummies, and neither is Gina.
Yeah, you know I love you.
I am.
You know I love you guys.
I am the Neville Longbottom of the Break Room.
Oh,
people thought I was the chosen one. Not the case.
Neville has quite a journey, though.
I know.
right.
In 8 years, I'll be cool. Right now.
Were your parents tortured to the point of insanity?
Sadly.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
Sadly, no.
Took a dark turn.
So on the New Rockstars channel, we're one in so far. We have Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone / Philosopher's Stone. That breakdown's on the channel. On Saturday will be hopefully our Chamber of Secrets breakdown, and then we're gonna do these once a week after that. And we're gonna try to come here on the Break Room and just like take your questions as like a companion Q&A. Gina has been busting her ass for the past month at least, researching everything. Talk us through what you're working, like everything that goes into what you do.
Oh, okay. Well, for the first one, I read the book completely and then watched the movie. And I watched these movies maybe 3 times while writing them. But then as I went on, I started to read a chapter of the book and watch the couple of minutes of the film that it corresponds to, because then I could better see the differences. And why they made certain decisions. It gets a little harder in the later books because they start shooting things out of order. Like they put things out of order and they omit way more things. For these earlier movies, when they're sticking to the books, like read a couple chapters and then watch the 15 minutes of film that corresponds to it. So then I can say like, oh, here's what they did in the book. Here's what they did in the movie. Why did they make these differences? And then my writer brain goes into like, oh, they probably did this because of this. They probably did this because watching Harry talk to himself for 10 minutes is boring as crap.
Yeah, it is. Despite Daniel Radcliffe's evolving acting skills over the series, in these earlier films, he's a kid who's a bit of a deer in the headlights.
Yeah. I can't be a wizard.
I do think that like the children in these first few books, they have to do give them a lot of help. And they like you pointed out in the breakdown, they shot a ton of coverage, which makes a lot of sense. They wanted to make sure that like even if we're shooting some dialogue for Harry, Hermione has a good reaction, and we want to make sure that we got that in this take or whatever. Normally you're using 1 or maybe 2 cameras for a dialogue scene, but in this I'm sure they probably had as many as they could. But I think the chemistry between those kids is still excellent in
Yeah.
this first movie, especially
Yeah, they
Ron.
really lucked out.
There's a scene during the flying lesson where Ron and Harry are just kind of like joking around. It felt so elementary school kids just like having a good time at recess or whatever. So I thought that, like, while you're right, there's a lot of like wooden moments from these actors. They nailed the chemistry of these kids.
Yeah.
That's a
Also,
bit-
like, it's insane to have. There was some talk throughout the series of like replacing cast members. At one point, Emma Watson wasn't sure she wanted to continue on. It's insane to have those kid actors stay in those roles for so long and be as good as they were. I mean, you essentially cast a bunch of like 10, 11, and 12-year-olds and then kept them for a decade. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, that's a big part. If you've watched our Easter egg breakdown on the other channel, a big part of why we're doing this series is it's as we're older now, we like to rewatch these movies, and we want to give that extra context of how anomalistic this film series is, with the cast consistency, with the smart choices that Columbus made early on that really just paid off later on. I think Cuarón gets so much credit for Prisoner of Azkaban, but really those choices made in those first two films for Philosopher's Stone were very important. And the fact that like most of those kids, by and large, ended up okay.
Yeah.
Like
no one killed anyone.
No one killed anyone. The actor who played
don't know.
Crabbe, I
That's
believe,
true.
was arrested for rioting charges later
Yeah,
on.
and
Like,
then
you
he
get a
never
Crabbe
appeared.
here, a Goyle there, and they can.
No
but
DUIs.
after that, Crabbe never appeared in any of the movies. They cut him out.
Yeah, you don't have. I think this was after the films came out. It was around like 2011, so it was like. But I think you don't have the kids are all right. You don't have DUIs. You don't have like awful charges that you just see in other franchises where the kids like grow up mired in controversy.
They
And I
make
think
them different over in the
They
UK.
really do. And I think it's because of the adult actors they were working with. They were working with professionals who just respect the craft of acting, who's just kids and grandkids are like, Granddad, will you be Dumbledore? And then they were like, sure, I'll take a break off of doing a show at the Globe this season, and I'll do this weird wizard movie. And then they taught these kids what it means to be a professional working actor.
Yeah.
And then
Maggie Smith was like, if one of you gets a DUI, I will beat the crap out of you.
By the way, speaking of Maggie Smith, holy shit, I didn't realize how much of an absolute G she, McGonagall is in this first movie and book. Like, I had sort of just forgotten. There's a scene, there's a moment when they get out of the girls' bathroom and had just defeated the troll, and Snape's there, and McGonagall's there. And if I was Snape, I would be so fucking mad, because McGonagall is like 5 points away from Gryffindor for doing something stupid, but also Harry and Ron, that was incredibly brave. 5 points each to Gryffindor is a net 5 point gain
for sheer dumb
kids
luck.
being exactly for kids being little snot-nosed piece of shit.
But believe I can't remember if it's in the movie or not, or in the extended version of the movie, but I know in the book, at least, Minerva wipes away some points when it's the whole Norbert thing. Like, they get dinged. Basically, Gryffindor is taken out of the running for the House Cup, and if not for the whole Philosopher's Stone stuff, like, Dumbledore is the one who kind of tips the scales at the end, but Minerva was like, no, you assholes, we're out past curfew.
They deserve it.
With dragons.
They deserve it.
I think she's the most fair. She's more fair than Snape. I guess we don't really know. We don't really see Professor Sprout like walking around and being like, 5 points to Hufflepuff. Oh yeah, my own house is awesome.
Again, send us your questions at Breakroom in our. We're going to be talking more about like behind the breakdown, breaking the breakdown. We want to give some updates because part of the other reason we're doing this is HBO is working on a new adaptation of turning these 7 books into a series, and we assume that they're going to do 1 book per season. And what we know so far is that head of HBO, Casey Bloys, has confirming that it's going to be coming in early 2027. Which feels like a long way away, especially if you're casting kids. Mark Rylance is being rumored to be one of the top contenders to be playing Albus Dumbledore. Mark Rylance, you'll know him from Ready Player One, from Bridge of Spies, from BFG. Don't Look Up. He played that tech leader guy who's like, it's fine.
Oh yeah,
it's
you
fine.
would recognize him.
He's in Dunkirk.
He is in Dunkirk. He's just one of the best actors. And what I love about this option is that he can play both to the whimsy and to the wisdom. I think those are the two spheres of Dumbledore. Is there has to be someone who is haunted by what he has experienced in his life, but isn't afraid to have a little bit of fun and hum a little Mexican hat dance after winking at a child that he just gave a time turner to. You need both. And there are also some rumors that, I don't know if these are accurate, but I saw this going around on Harry Potter Twitter, that the 3 kids have been cast perhaps, and that they'll be announced in 2025. That surprises me if it's not going to be coming out till 2027.
Yeah, it seems very early. I do know that they are already reading writers for the show.
Did you submit?
My manager did submit me to
go.
write on the
If
show.
Gina stops working at New Rockstars, you know where she went. Evan?
HBasso13 asking, who would you want to cast in the show, in the trio, if one of them could be a known actor? Because it sounds like they're going to go with relative unknowns, right? But if there was like a known younger kid, is there anyone in your head right now that works? Obviously, we aren't keeping up with like
little kids.
I know. I'm trying to everyone that I'm thinking of was like a little kid that was like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, my brain immediately goes to Jacob Tremblay. But I'm pretty sure he's like 19.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll never forget doing the Little Mermaid press and being in the room with Jacob Tremblay and being like, whoa, his voice.
Well, and this is pointed out in the breakdown, is that there's a lot of ADR in this first movie that where Harry's voice sounds incredibly different.
Yeah. Because even at that age, even a couple months makes a big difference. Everyone that I'm thinking of, I'm like, oh, that kid from Love Actually is great, and then I'm like, oh, he's like a 30-year-old that was in
that kid just got married.
I know. Like, he's like a 30-year-old that was in like the romantic interest in Queen's Gambit.
If we don't have any great answers, we can move on.
It's a great question.
It's a great
question. I think if we pulled up a bunch of media that had young kids in it, we could be
young
kid
kids from the UK. I'm trying to think of what UK
even
films.
Millie Alcock is too old now at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, she's playing grandmas.
Yeah.
Once you're in Hollywood, once you're 14.
Do you think they're gonna stick to the cursed child casting rule and stick to a young black actress to play Hermione?
I think with TV shows, everything is out the window.
If that happens, you're gonna get a lot of Rings of Power fans who will be coming after this show if that happens. But I think they should consider doing more diverse casting.
I'm sure that they probably put out a casting call, or will if they haven't cast them yet, for all diversities.
Last question before we kind of move on here, about the upcoming series. Feel free to close up any thoughts, but HBasso13 asking, how many episodes do you think the HBO show will be? We talked about this a little bit, but they suggested, is it 1 episode per chapter?
Whoa.
I don't think
I'd love that.
I would love that, but there are so many chapters in the book that there would be no. I would think it would be an 8 or 10 episode show. Yeah. I do know that the writers would have to relocate to London to write it, so I guess they intend to write it and shoot it there, obviously. But I would be shocked if it was 1 chapter an episode.
I think you're talking about HBO standard 10 episodes per season.
Yeah, that's what I would.
Now, my question for you guys, and I know we wanted to move on a little bit here. We've talked a lot in these breakdowns about things that we were removed from these movies. We have our little room of requirement section at the end of the videos about hey, these are the things that we need to see in the HBO series. My question for you guys is there anything that we want added in, right? There's a bunch of stuff that's been removed, but I wouldn't mind a little bit of just some more foreshadowing of this is where the story is heading, and those kinds of pre-planning things now that you know exactly how these 7 or potentially, I don't know, maybe they will do 8 seasons of a show.
It's ambitious.
Yeah, I think absolutely, and not just things that they had to omit from the books, Like, with our Chamber of Secrets breakdown, we make a strong case for why you need the denoming sequence in season 2 of that show. It's one of the best scenes in all of the books. It's so freaking funny. But I think there are other things like that. If you're comparing like Fire and Blood being adapted into House of the Dragon, they add the whole idea of Aegon's dream as like a motivation for these Targaryen factions warring against each other. So what is going to be the Aegon's dream for this Harry Potter series? Are there going to be establishing
Just get
clues?
James wandering around a haunted castle.
Yeah. I think it's going to be Dumbledore stuff. You're going to see Deathly Hallows. You're going to see Horcruxes. Like we'll get more hints at like, Hufflepuff's cup. Ravenclaw's diadem. There's going to be like other just stuff that like you'll see as Easter eggs. And I think it's going to be like the fact that they're talking about Mark Rylance first. I think he's going to be the star of the show. I don't think it's going to be a Harry Potter solely focused show. I think he's going to be equal build with Dumbledore. So you're going to get some hints at Dumbledore's past with Ariana, with Aberforth, with Grindelwald. All that stuff.
His crimes. Yeah, I think when they did the first movie.
What were they?
When they did the first movie, they didn't have all the books written. And so and that's kind of clear with like certain decisions they make. Things that like had to sort of be retconned. And I think that now the TV show has all of this stuff to work with. So I think that's better. I think the first 4 books had come out when that first movie came out, which means that they didn't have some of the best stuff to work with. Like they didn't know how important Neville was going to be in all of it. They didn't know that Ginny was going to turn out to be the ultimate love interest. They didn't really know that like Ron and Hermione were going to get together. So there's like a ton of stuff that's like Endgame that I think writers of the TV show could be like, oh, keeping in mind that this is Endgame, let's put in some little seeds.
That's an interesting point that you make about Ron and Hermione, Harry and Ginny, right? Like J.K. Rowling has come out after the fact and said like, oh, it was a mistake for me to write Hermione and Ron getting together. It should have been Harry and Hermione. I don't necessarily agree with that take, but I guess there's 2 options you can go if as the writers of the show. Is like, hey, we're going to lay the seeds for this relationship a little bit earlier so that it makes more sense. Or do you think that they might like retcon some of these relationships? I think fans would freak out if you did that, but I'd be curious. I
think fans might freak out. You could add like you could add some stuff for the shippers though, I think.
Sure.
I mean maybe like especially because like the bomb that Dumbledore was gay the whole time wasn't dropped until after all the books were written. Like that's like a classic example of like, yeah, we could like ship Dumbledore with someone, like knowing his full backstory. I don't know if the show will.
Flitwick and Pomfrey. A pamphlet. I think on a TV series you have the opportunity to explore the nuance of relationships.
Yeah.
And what was I just thinking of? Similar to Villeneuve's Dune, his adaptation of the Dune films, he complicates the relationship between Paul Atreides and Zendaya's and Chani, right? So by the end of Dune Part 2, their relationship is not as like straightforward as Herbert wrote in the 65 novel. And in the same way, you could probably do something with like Ron and Hermione with Harry and Ginny, and you can just show that like, oh, it's more on again, off again, but like in a more complicated teenage way, and that like their priorities change. They get stupid sometimes. And then I think that'll be an interesting question for the 7th season. Like, do we have to end this show by saying that they are happily headed toward a marriage someday? Or is it something like, it's just going to be complicated and I guess they'll end up, but it's just like they've been through so goddamn much. Like, do they want to just move on with their lives?
Don't you guys want to sleep with some other people before you get together with them when you're like 16?
Sweetheart, it hurts. Yeah. It's a stressful world out there, and there's a lot of people who grow a beard in relation to stress. I know I do. But hey.
So you're always stressed?
I am, genuinely, yes. And I bring this up because if you don't want to grow a stress beard, you can use one of our sponsors, Dollar Shave Club. If you ever wanted, was that a good transition? I don't know.
You switched
That transition was almost as smooth as your face will be if you use Dollar Shave Club.
Hey, that's way better. That's why Gina's a writer and I'm not. If you've ever wanted people to greet you by saying, "Hello, handsome, nice face you've got shaved there," then Gina, you should have written this copy. Then you need Dollar Shave Club's high quality but never overpriced shave and grooming products. The holidays are around the corner. If you don't shave, most people do, get this for a loved one. Want a closer shave? Use shave butter. Not shave butter, shave butter. A translucent shaving cream alternative. I had a question. Why does it matter that it's translucent? Smart, so you can see what you're doing a little bit better. So you can use that to shave. You can also use their Club Series 6-blade razor and Club Series Diamond Grip handle for an incredibly close, smooth shave. The diamond pattern grip on the handle will give you a super precise control so you can finally nail the Doctor Strange look you've been going for, which I think I'm getting, like, I have this kind of like thing that needs to be filled in, so maybe I'll do a Doctor Strange or
Put your money where your mouth is.
They have like weird soul patch things. Don't take our word for it. Try it for yourself. You can visit their site right now for 20% off, $20 or more, and get your products delivered right to your door. Visit dollarshaveclub.com/breakroom and use promo code breakroom for 20% off or more. And remember, however you shave, Dollar Shave Club is here to help you stay handsome and or cute.
Thank you, John, and thank you to Dollar Shave Club. You know, Dollar Shave Club has been working with the New Rockstars Network for quite some time, and they've always been lovely to work with, so we're happy to, and their products have been good.
I liked that product. They have a little electric one, and they have 2 tips, so one is like for face stuff, and the other one is for body stuff, which is cool.
Just the 2 tips?
2 tips.
All right, so twin cords of those tips, both phoenix feathers from Fox. No Fox given here as we move on to comments, a segment where we address some of the frequently commented comments on the breakdown, starting with...
I don't know what this means.
Eric's failure.
I'm curious to know what you're
starting with,
here.
It is not little winging, it's little whinging.
Yeah, whinging.
And I think you are all little whiners for bringing it up so much. But I understand why... Look...
Can you give context to this? I have no idea.
Yeah, the town where they live.
Okay.
The town where the Dursleys live is Little Whinging.
Thank you.
But it's spelled you could see how maybe someone
British
would say
people,
Winging.
you have town names that are spelled in one way and are pronounced another way. Leicester, what?
Also, Massachusetts has the same deal. So those guys can get right out of here.
Yep. On that note, I also call them the Dursleys. And it is the Dursleys.
Yeah, that's
you hit that S too hard? Is that the complaint?
Something we are discovering, and I want to be respectful about this.
I don't.
Because without English writers, we wouldn't have great works like this. We wouldn't have Shakespeare. We wouldn't have Dickens. We wouldn't have Roald Dahl. But with that has given modern Brits a sense of privilege where they think they can correct the rest of the English-speaking world on how to speak this language.
This is
and
down
all
the
I
barrel
ask
to
is
you,
to
Ryan
have
Payer.
a bit of patience with us because I don't believe we would have these movies without our crummy Hollywood American movie studio companies funding them. You would have some BBC version of it with the best actors you've ever seen in your lives, but with the lowest budget, and the magic would be actually pretty charming. Now, the longer I talk about this, I actually think that might have been better than what we got. So just thank you for pointing it out, but just I ask for your patience and your humility.
We don't need 900 of these comments. Look through the comments, and if one person has made the comment already, you don't need to make the comment.
Yeah, send it as a DM.
Yeah, find me.
Send it to Eric's house.
Yeah, find me.
Send a fucking owl. Maybe 1,000.
Send it by owl. That's a good one. If you can get an owl to get here.
That's right.
Wow.
You're welcome to go.
Yeah.
I will say this is not the commenter's fault. This is the
an owl in the
YouTube
PO box.
algorithm and platform's fault. When you're watching a video on mobile, you don't see the other comments. You just see your comment field and you just write it. So
is that true?
I get it. I'm not new to this game. But I do want to own up to mispronouncing it. I want to shout out our friends at the Super Carlin Brothers. And hello, brother! I met these guys a couple times in Austin at RTX, and they are two of the nicest dudes. And they do a lot of Harry Potter videos. And I had talked about just because my wife and I are reading all these books to our son, who doesn't understand them, because he's a baby.
Whinging, Dada.
Yep, that's exactly what he says. And so we were kind of doing the math in our heads, like, wait, how if Harry, Ron, Seamus, Neville, and Dean are the only Gryffindor first years. There's only 5 of them, and then the girls, first-year boys. So the girls is just Hermione, Lavender Brown, and Parvati, right? So that's just 8 new Gryffindors that year, 7 grades, maybe 10 kids per grade. And then 4 houses. So there's probably no more than 300 kids. Well, I did the math in the video, and then I made fun of wizards for not teaching their kids math.
Maths.
Our friends and other people are like, well, in Muggle studies. I'm like, there's no way they're doing basic arithmetic in Muggle studies. And not all kids take Muggle studies. It's an elective. And not when in year 7, when they basically cut that out of their curriculum. But they do, the Super Carlin Brothers went into this. A lot of people have done the math on this, that specifically Harry and Ron and Hermione were born in a year when there was a wizarding war happening. And then Voldemort and the Death Eaters were going around killing wizarding families, so there was just basically fewer kids being born during those times, so that by the time they, 11 years later, got admitted into Hogwarts, there'd just be fewer kids. My thing is, Lynn, we should have seen some empty beds and all cried.
Oh.
Just like, we have all these extra spots, but there's just not enough wizards being born.
For sale, wizard baby shoes, never worn.
Another correction. A lot of people were saying, because I was saying, hey, it's Halloween when they're dropping off baby Harry at Privet Drive. Why aren't there any Halloween decorations? And a lot of you pointed out that actually when they deliver baby Harry to the Dursleys, it is November 1st. It's the next night. Good point. I'm just, we come in America here, we leave our Halloween decorations up through Christmas.
I'm also going to chalk this up to the fact that the filmmakers did not know that this date, because this was something that the author later set as a date. So you can justify it all you want by saying not a single person on Privet Drive would have left their Halloween decorations up for even the night. But this is really a filming mistake.
I think that the folks on Privet Drive are just such assholes that they don't put up any Halloween decorations because they don't want kids knocking on their door.
That's what we said in the breakdown. It was this is like an HOA situation.
Yeah,
where
they're all
like,
a bunch of tight asses where it's like you may have one pumpkin in front, but it
and
cannot
it must be
carved.
consumed afterward.
It must not smile. Anyway,
it's a bunch of sad, frowning pumpkins.
Mouthless pumpkins. Another thing, this wasn't us, this was a movie, but the plaque in the trophy case, when they say that James Potter was on the Gryffindor Quidditch team, it says he was a seeker. In the books, he is a chaser. But the movie said he was a seeker because they wanted this moment between Harry and his father.
So I was rewatching this movie last night. That shot to me stood out as looking like it was CGI. I'd have to go back and double check, but it seemed weirdly,
It definitely wasn't CGI, but it might have been
Gina.
added in later. It would be such a weird thing.
I watched this last night.
It would have been such a weird thing to CGI.
I agree. I'm with you. It just looked like CGI.
But
also, you're a writer. Shut up. I'm in post.
It might have been something they shot later and added in.
Well, because one of the names on the plaque was the guy who made the prop, right?
And that was, I agree. That was you pointed that out in the breakdown, that it was a production designer name and not a VFX artist name. So probably wasn't CGI, but it bumped me.
Yeah.
Evan popping in again to say we want to thank Via for sponsoring us today. Via makes premium, federally legal cannabis products. This holiday season, unwind and recharge with Via. Whether you're enjoying a quiet evening at home or embracing the festive cheer, Via's premium THC and THC-free gummies will help you find your perfect holiday balance. I, for one, am looking forward to treating myself to an Elevate gummy on Thanksgiving and burrowing into a bowl of stuffing. I love stuffing, but not as much as I love burrowing. All of Via's products are grown indoors in state-of-the-art facilities and harvested at peak THCA levels to emphasize a natural aroma and flavor. They add strains to their selection every week, so there's always something new to check out. Via has THC and THC-free gummies vapes, topicals, and drops, all of which are crafted with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independently owned American farms. You can trust them. Plus, Via legally ships to nearly all states in the U.S. in discreet packaging directly to your door with a worry-free guarantee, no medical card required. This holiday season, give yourself some peace of mind. If you're 21 plus, check out the link to Via in our description and use the code BREAKROOM to receive 15% off. And after you purchase, let them know you heard about them from us, the Breakroom. Please support our show and tell them we sent you this holiday season. Enhance your everyday with Via. All right, popping on again. Back to you guys. Should we get to some chat comments and questions?
Hell yeah!
All right, let's do it.
Who's mad at me?
Actually, no one. A lot of people have some.
Everybody, I love you.
A lot of people have some great questions, some great thoughts. Jonathan, who had sent in a super chat, said Erik can't be wearing shoes right now. Not sure what that's about. Don't know if that was a Harry Potter thing.
And he's not.
I can't be wearing shoes.
Is it like a witch's road thing?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. You know what shoes I'm wearing?
Don't stretch your legs.
Channel sponsor Vessi. Don't do it.
I got these shoes because Tom Holland wears them in Spider-Man No Way Home. True story.
Real?
Yeah, it's the one of the two shoes he wears.
Fucking Disney
I know.
shit.
I love these Vans. It's the first Vans that I bought.
I like Vans.
Because when I was in middle school, I had Vans, and a kid in my neighborhood bullied me because I told him I didn't skateboard.
Wait, I've
and then
also
he's
got
like, then you
Vans
shouldn't be wearing Vans, you poser.
I
I've
know.
also got Vans on, you guys.
Well,
John?
I
all
have
the
Converse
skaters,
on,
you know.
the superior brand of shoes.
Brandon Barrick in the chat saying, "Show us the toes."
Show the toes. You
have to
guys,
watch the Vessi
I know
spot for that.
this is not a Survivor office, which is too bad. But God, there were a lot of toe shots in last night's episode of Survivor.
Special director Quentin Tarantino.
Probably.
John, my wife and I just we're going back from the beginning, so we just wrapped season 1.
Ooh,
I mean,
the
I've
snakes
seen
and
it.
the rats.
The Snakes and the Rats, man.
Get ready
Sue,
for some
get over
toes.
yourself.
H. Basso 13 saying, "Did Gina notice that Hermione is reading the boys' lines while they are speaking, like during the library scene?"
Yeah, that is a thing that a couple of the actors do. Even Radcliffe at one point is like.
Funny.
It's hard. They probably memorized them. They were probably so scared of forgetting their lines that they like
They
read
didn't do a
them
Brando?
and they did memorize them so much that it's a real rookie move. But they get better.
They get so much better.
You know what?
They're so good.
Why don't? I guess it would take away from the performance. I'm surprised that film sets don't use teleprompters more often.
Well,
Just put the lines.
You know
on
just
what?
be
I
like-
mean,
camera.
watch SNL if you
Oh, I
want
guess
to
because
know
you
why.
can't look down the
yeah.
barrel of the lens.
yeah.
They want to be, they want their actors.
I mean,
to
you could do
be awful.
the documentary thing where it's like the off
The
thing,
Errol
which
Morris.
yeah. But Ryan Painter says, asking, looking back at the first movie, how well does it hold up as a film?
I think it holds up great. I think there's a reason why people go back to watch if they were not good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like movies that were that were very highly budgeted, high profile films that we don't go back to watch The Golden Compass every year.
Yeah,
we don't
which
go
is
back
such
to
a bummer
even watch.
because I
Fear
love
Show.
that book series so much.
Even like, say what you will, The Chronicles of Narnia, the Tilda Swinton, Liam Neeson,
Yeah.
Aslan. People don't go back to watch that.
Again, another book series I love. Yeah, I do think this holds up. I think like there are obvious things as an adult that like things that are not meant for us. But I don't watch it and go like, this story's dumb. Like, I'm watching it and being like, yeah, that's Snape. Look at that Snape. Look at the way he's walking. He's a bad guy. Like, it still gets me. It still gets me.
That was one of my favorite details from the breakdown, was pointing out how Snape walking away in that one shot is so similar to the shot of
Yeah, Voldemort,
the Voldemort
in
figure in the Forbidden Forest.
feeding on the unicorn.
That was cool. Yeah, Gina, I believe you spotted that one.
Yeah. I noticed it like every time I watched the movie where I was like, oh, they did this. I was glad to put it to use.
It's truly like one of the best parts of that movie is like also a detail pointed out is when they're in the Great Hall in the first scene, Harry's scar starts to burn for the first time and he's looking at Snape, but you can see the back of what's his face's head,
Quirrell.
Quirrell's head, in that. In
Yeah,
that
the
shot.
misdirects are great. I
Yeah.
mean, like truly, I think like as adults, and also like seeing it so many times, we're ahead of the story clearly, but never ahead of it like in an eye roll. Ugh, this is so dumb way.
Yeah, it's really well done. And I remember being a teenager and really Prisoner of Azkaban was a movie that like blew my mind. And then because it was so good, it made me as a teenager look back at the first and second film and feel like they were subpar. But realistically, going back to them, I have even more respect for Christopher Columbus as a director. Not respect for him as a colonizer, but
Same guy.
same guy.
Wow.
They brought him back.
Well, it's just I don't think they call him Christopher. I think he's just Chris Columbus. So whenever I say Christopher Columbus, I'm like, no, I shouldn't say that. But he just made a lot of smart choices for the casting, the production design, just the world building of it that Cuarón does not throw out. He builds on it, and he perfects it in some ways. But I think both of them are equally valuable to the success of that franchise. Evan, do we have another question or comment?
Yeah, there's lots of questions. Tony McKellen, YouTube, asking, Erik, can you explain more about Harry Potter being safe with the Dursleys because of blood magic? It was mentioned in the breakdown video.
Yeah, so because of Lily's sacrifice, when Voldemort showed up to the house in Godric's Hollow, the way that she was able to protect her son was through a specific spell that involved her unmatched love for her child. And that is what caused Voldemort's curse to rebound. And that blood magic spell connects through Lily's bloodline through Petunia, her sister. The movies do not establish Petunia, Fiona Shaw, as much as I think the shows really need to. And it's a shame because Fiona Shaw, as we see in Andor, is one of the best actors ever.
Good. Yeah.
But even though Petunia is not a witch, she has the same blood, and then that blood extends to the domicile. I guess what I'm not sure about, I don't believe Dumbledore cast an additional charm to protect the Dursley house, right?
No. Well, I mean, he did put certain protections in place, but the Lily sacrifice is enough to protect Harry for as long as he is able to call the Dursleys' house home.
Yeah.
So that's why he needs to return there every summer, because it ensures the circle of magic stays on him basically until he's 17, which for wizards it equals of age. And by accepting baby Harry in, Petunia agreed to that. Like, she basically sealed the spell. So in one of the books, Dumbledore sends her a howler as a reminder and says, "Remember my last." Because she has to remember the fact that she agreed to take baby Harry in, and so he's protected as long as he can call it home, so she can't kick him out.
It's one of the coolest moments in the book, and God, they need to put it in the show. I really missed it in the movies.
Yeah, I understand why they sort of simplified it for a bunch of kids' movies, but I agree that, like, for a TV show where you can delve into, not everything has to be Harry. I think, like, you can delve in, because one of the coolest reveals is the fact that, like,
Shave Club.
Dollar Shave
Not everything has to be Harry.
Oh my God, John! I thought you were just like Lilia Calderuin for a moment.
I was about to chime in and be like,
Remember,
something
10
can be
minutes ago.
smoothie. But, you know.
Yeah,
Sure.
One thing that the show could do is go into the mythology of that spell a bit more. I don't know if it needs a name. Like, it doesn't need the midichlorian equivalent of an explanation.
I don't even know if it's a spell. I think just the act of her being willing to die for her son. I don't know if it was a spell or just the act itself.
Yeah.
That was sort of my understanding, because at some point Harry wonders if Voldemort had chosen differently, if he had chosen Neville. He wondered if Neville's mother would have sacrificed herself, and it would have been enough to.
I have questions, guys. You guys are a little bit further into the series than I am.
We're bringing a lot of stuff.
No.
In the
I didn't
future.
mean to shut your conversation down. It's in relation to this. Two things I think is interesting. One, in the films, it seems more like Papa Dursley is more of an asshole to Harry than Petunia is, but in the book, it seemed like Petunia was the one who was like, "Fuck my sister" and all that weird magic shit.
Oh, interesting.
So I thought that was a kind of an interesting change that they made. But here's what I want to know more about in these series is, like, I know they get into a little bit of the process of making a Horcrux in the 6th book, but, like, how does Harry become a Horcrux in that moment? Is Voldemort doing that intentionally? Did he go into that moment being like, well, I know there's a little kid out there who's going to be the chosen one, so I'm going to... So, like, those are the kinds of background details that I'd be really curious to explore in this series.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Gina. Voldemort did not know that he was turning Harry into a Horcrux in that moment.
Oh, right.
It was an additional Horcrux that he did not know that he created.
He just got lucky.
Yeah.
No, he was unlucky. Very unlucky.
He doesn't even know until like the very end that Harry is a Horcrux.
And that's why when Harry goes into the Forbidden Forest, when Voldemort Avada Kedavras him, it doesn't kill him. It's because that's like a piece of Voldemort's soul that is living in Harry through the scar. Right. So there's like an additional Horcrux that Voldemort accidentally created by the curse rebounding. He split his soul an additional time. So that kind of speaks. That's why I think, like, knowing that the author was going to go in that direction in Deathly Hallows, I think in the season 1 of the show they could go more into Lily's sacrifice. And the reason I want it to be a specific charm is that it would imply that every other person that Voldemort or any dark wizard killed, you have to imagine there was some murder or there might have been some child murder in the history of wizards and witches. And to think that no other mother in the history had ever done that to protect their kid, I would venture to say most mothers out there would die for their kid. I would jump in front of a bullet for my kid if it came down to it. And I think
let's find out.
Oh my God! And to say, like, I think there needs to be something specific about maybe this archaic spell that Lily learned. I think there could be a cool backstory that Lily, who grew up in a Muggle family, could learn from Snape, who was a half-blood prince, and he looked up and he created Secum Sceptra and all this shit, and he found this old archaic thing, and they were poring over a book, and then in this moment, she could have been like, this thing, and maybe even Voldemort didn't even know about it. I think if it's something character-rooted like that, it's better than like midichlorians and that kind of magic. I think it should be something that's very specific, and if you imply that it came from Severus, I think it could be really, really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting, her being a Muggle, probably someone who is not always wearing wizard robes, maybe wearing some plain clothes that you could get from our friends over at True Classic. Thank you for sponsoring this video. Let's try that one more time. I get a thumbs up from Evan. Let's go! We're getting close to that time of year when the ugly sweat... Okay, well, I'm wearing a sweater.
But it's not ugly. It looks really cool.
Yeah, that's not ugly.
plain.
That one's not ugly.
But those ugly sweaters are in the closets. They're starting to feel like good ideas again. Grab them from the top shelf. But hey, why do we have ugly clothes in the first place? Particularly when True Classic makes having comfortable, good-looking clothes more affordable than ever. True Classic sells t-shirts, hoodies, jeans that are perfect additions to any wardrobe. They're super comfy. That's in the copy, but damn, they are comfy. And perfect for this cold LA nights. So only buy this stuff if you live in Los Angeles.
A cold LA night is like a normal day, a winter day?
Yeah.
I've been doing something deeply irresponsible for the environment lately, which is turning on a space heater in my room, but then also opening the back door, so I have it's like a little bit warm, but also has like a nice little crispness to it.
Dang, that's truly some classic stuff.
That is truly classic.
Happy Christmas, John.
Happy Christmas. I should stop doing that. It's a waste of electricity. True Classic also has a ton of bundles and multi-pack options. So if you find something that you like, it's super easy to double down and get your wardrobe that much more dialed in. True Classic's ultra comfortable, perfect fitting essentials make for the perfect gift for you and the men in your life. Also, women can wear men's clothing. So if you're ready to upgrade your closet, shop now and unlock big savings during their huge holiday sale. Go to our exclusive link at trueclassic.com/breakroom. That's trueclassic.com, no S there, /breakroom. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. And the year with holiday cheer, thanks to True Classic. Also, I would say this. Roll that puppy up, stuff it in a stocking, great gift.
Oh.
And if you would prefer something that's not as sort of like, let me just pull one of these out. You know, they've got like great like basics options, right? Like this is something you wear every day. But if you want something a little more flavorful, check out nerdriot.shop, where we got some good nerdy designs. You can support all 3 channels in the new Rockstars network. This one has Iron Man on it.
And Dr. Doom.
And
Half and half.
I got Ben Grimm. Graham.
No one liked that shirt. And it's
And
really a bummer.
Graham.
I don't get it. It's my favorite thing that we
It
made.
didn't
in a
sell
while.
I
very
do
well.
like it.
I like it a lot.
right,
We're
and
getting
then-
a lot of questions about the upcoming show, which I would love to hit, but I want to keep it a little bit more centered on what we're doing at New Rockstars right now and the breakdown and stuff pertaining to that before we move on. Running a little bit low in time, so we'll see what we get to. Wasn't going to ask this initially, but Erik had brought it up. HBassel13 had asked earlier, and Jason Wooden Wookie Morante had sent in a super chat asking, is there any chance you guys will collaborate with the Super Carlin brothers on this project?
Oh, it's really, really hard. We are specifically getting these videos researched, written, and shot during a very, very slammed holiday season at New Rockstars, and we're kind of writing it around our own personal time outages over the Thanksgiving and December holiday to coordinate with other great Harry Potter YouTubers, especially if they're not in the LA area. It's just going to be really, really hard for us. And but I do really love those guys. I'm not ever going to say no to collaborating with them in the future. Doors always open because they're both just super great guys.
Come on the break room and
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yes, open invitation to the two of them if this gets to them. If you're in the LA area for the next, between now and the end of the year, let us know. We'd love to have you on this show to chat about it.
Come on, we'll give you free snacks.
Yes.
JVCE was asking which book/movie are you guys most looking forward to?
Oh, well, Erik can answer that.
My favorite film of the series is Prisoner of Azkaban, and we are shooting it this afternoon, and you're gonna love that breakdown. I'm just telling you right now, you are going to love that breakdown. There's so many cool Easter eggs and just details that, like, I know there are details that you have probably found in this movie. I'm telling you, there are deeper layers to those details that I don't think anyone has found. So you're gonna love that one. However, I think we can acknowledge that Prisoner of Azkaban does not do the most faithful job adapting the book. I make a case in that video that I think Chamber of Secrets might be the best adaptation, and that it is faithful to the book and improves the book. The worst at it might be Half-Blood Prince.
Yeah, I do think that the most book accurate movie is Chamber of Secrets, and the one that's the least accurate is Half-Blood Prince. There's just so much in Half-Blood Prince that gets left out. So much of Voldemort's backstory and how he became who he is that is like so great in the book gets left out in favor of, I think, like, they wanted to add more comedy. David Yates said he wanted to make this one sort of funny. So I think he put in more like Quidditch tryouts and Ron making out with Lavender Brown, and sort of sacrificed some of the, like, hey, here's Voldemort's weird grandfather and uncle and mom.
Which is one of the cooler scenes.
Yeah,
in that
super
text.
cool. Super
Half-Blood
cool.
Prince might have been my favorite of the books that I read.
Yeah,
just because I
yeah.
love the history.
Yeah,
of it.
and also just like the ending at the time. Like, I remember reading it when it came out, when it was released. I like went to whatever bookstore and bought it and like read it that night. And that ending,
you did not get the spoiler?
I did not. It was, I'm old, so this was like
got spoiled.
this was like 1897, pre-internet. I had no idea how that ended, how it ended.
Yeah,
And I
think
was
it is
shocked.
now. The more we're talking about it, I think it is the triumph of the 7 books, because it is where Rowling, I think, most matured with the audience and met them where they were, and
And
came
it's
up
the
with
most Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, definitely. The concept of the Horcruxes. There is so much great world building in the Harry Potter books. A lot of it is, sampled from Tolkien, from C.S. Lewis, from Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
However, the Horcruxes is just something that was so fundamentally cool and made Voldemort a far more haunting villain than we realized. So that when we end Half-Blood Prince, we're like, damn, we're not even close to beating this guy.
Yeah, and also just seeing the pathos of like young Voldemort who's like showing all the signs of a serial killer, killing animals, messing up kids, and then like becoming a very charming sociopath as a teen. And yeah, the movie leaves all of that middle section out of his transformation into the most feared wizard that ever lived. But that transformation to me was the most fascinating part of the book, and I think that book might be my favorite.
But we needed more slow motion scenes of Ron batting
A
waffles
quaffle
out
away.
of the keeps.
And we'll get them in the series, I promise. No, and I think that sixth book is my favorite too, because it's almost like when you're watching a TV show that you enjoy and then you hit a season finale where the creators of the TV show are like, oh, we know what the next 4 years are going to be of this show, and it's going to blow your mind, and you just like, you've already enjoyed this piece of content, and then the creators are like, get ready, we're end gaming this now.
The final book is also great, but it hurts my heart in there's a very specific part that I had to put the book down for like an hour and walk away that happens early on. Because I can't handle animal stuff.
Oh, Hedwig.
And I read that and I like put the book down and like walked away and was like, I don't know if I can read the rest of this. And then it just gets worse.
I thought it was just like, as soon as you see Tonks, you're like, fuck this.
For me, it was the chapter, the Resurrection Stone chapter. I opened at the close.
So
I had to put the book down. It was like 4:30 in the morning at that point. Because I literally got the book and I just read it through the night.
Yeah.
That was it for me.
It's a lot. It's an emotional roller coaster.
Evan.
Ryan Painter said, having to go and do all the research into the films, what has been your favorite fun fact you've seen about the film/production?
Oh.
What do you think?
I think I just especially love how many practical effects they use in those first few movies, especially the first three. Because like nowadays you would never see it. Nowadays everything is CGI, and I just, as someone who like grew up in a time when everything was a practical effect, like puppets and things like that, I just really appreciate how they mixed in practical effects with CGI, which doesn't always look perfect, but those as much as they could, they used practical effects and models and things like that. And I just think that's so cool. And that's something that as effects got more advanced and the movies went on, they sort of did away with. So in this first few, I just love all those practical effects.
For me, it was Buckbeak the Hippogriff taking a shit. I've seen that movie so many goddamn times. And in the paddock, when like Harry is approaching Buckbeak, it was the first CGI character to take a shit on camera.
As soon as you bow, it immediately.
No, it's like as you're walking up,
it's its bowels.
It's like,
that means he likes me.
Yeah. No. I think to me the most interesting discovery has just been the timing of the history of it. So, when you get to Prisoner of Azkaban, the third-year kids are being taken by the stagecoaches drawn by You Just Like Magic. Mm-hmm. But that movie came out. I just forgot this feeling, and I was transported back to myself in like summer 2004, watching that, having read Order of the Phoenix the summer before and realizing, I know what's pulling those. And the fact that they would do that in those movies just for the kids who had read the book at that point, setting that up, that I think is the magic of these movies. Because like those of us who read these books, but the movie version hadn't come out yet, like we knew that there was all this backstory that would be added later, and that the earlier movies did a good job setting that up. Like, I guess this isn't necessarily true yet, but casting John Hurt as Ollivander,
good.
I think they were just casting everybody as everything.
I mean, some of the casting is insane. Like just having Madame Rosmerta, like it's insane. She has like one line in a movie, and she's one of the most famous like British actors of our time.
From Dr. Zhivago.
Terry Gilliam has talked a lot of shit about that first movie. My question for you guys is, do you think that it fractured his relationship with John Cleese at all now that he was cast as Nearly Headless Nick? He's just like, fuck you, John, you piece of shit. You knew I wanted to direct this movie.
That's what did them in.
Another comment is a lot of people were like, Terry Gilliam is not an Englishman.
Yeah.
He was born in Minnesota. Guys, this is one you gotta let go.
Yeah.
This is just some classist UK bullshit.
Yeah.
To say that a member of the Monty Python
Also,
does not count as an Englishman.
Also, he
Get over
considers
it.
himself an Englishman. He's lived there longer than he ever lived in the U.S.
Right, but
And that was his
consider myself
argument
British, and
for him
people
to
won't give me that. So.
JK7K asking, can you ask about the audiobooks and if they prefer Stephen Fry or Jim Dale? I don't know if any of you have an audio relationship with the audiobooks.
Oh, I don't. I love Stephen Fry.
Yeah, I think I listened to the Stephen Fry ones for a little bit.
I just love him. I'm more of a visual reader than I think if I hear it I would zone out. So
Yeah.
I've never done it, but Stephen Fry might win me over.
I've heard good things about I have not. I've only read them,
Yeah.
so the only voice is my own in my head that says it as winging.
Little winging.
It's true for
Little winging.
But dada,
most things.
it's whinging.
I'm actually surprised at how many questions we have about the upcoming Harry Potter series. So maybe we'll do a separate video on that, a little bit a deeper dive when we get more news. Good to know. Good to know. But I'll ask one question here that I think won't spiral too much. JSU Eagle asking, what movie actor do you think makes a cameo return to the series? And H. Bass was saying, they heard a rumor Tom Felton back as Lucius Malfoy.
Oh, that's a great question.
I agree with a lot of that type of thing. I wouldn't mind getting Jesus Christ, Dan Radcliffe back for like that train sequence at the very end when it's a grown-up Harry. That would be like a fun little cameo instead of like the bad aging up they did of those people for the movies.
See, I want to see him.
I wouldn't mind him being James or Lily or whatever.
I would want to see him in like the weirdest makeup character that you don't realize is him. Like make him Tom the barman or something like that. Like make him unrecognizable like Tom Cruise in
Tropic Thunder.
In Tropic Thunder. Like just like have the original actors be there, but like, you know, in the craziest, weirdest one-line cameo ever.
Get all the OG actors back. Put him in weird motion capture suits like Benedict Cumberbatch playing Schmaug, and have Daniel Radcliffe play Hedwig.
I will say the one actor that I think is guaranteed to return, just because he is in everything, is Warwick Davis.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I don't know who he will be, but that dude works
100,000
more than
characters in that
anyone. He played so many uncredited characters throughout this film series. He plays like half the goblins in the film series. I think he will absolutely be in there.
Yeah.
I would love to see Harry Melling. He plays Dudley Dursley. And this actor has been in so much. He was in Queen's Gambit. He was in The Old Guard, right?
He
has become such a magnificent adult actor.
He's great in Queen's Gambit.
Right, and he's just so good. And I think he could play an amazing Arthur Weasley or Barty Crouch.
Yeah.
A Stan Shunpike if you just want a cameo. I think of all the young actors, he's the one who has like surprised me the most with like how good he is. Just in like every time you see him pop up in something, you're like, damn man, you turned out all right. Because I just think Daniel Radcliffe, you know, he's too big of a star. I think he needs to. There needs to be some separation here.
Yeah, I think like
they
also
come back and said like they don't really want to come back.
Yeah, it does. I could see if it's like a humongous hit, if it's like a Game of Thrones level hit, I could understand them like maybe in season 2 or something coming back. I think they kind of want to see how it's received first, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. Moonrise Andrew is also one of our viewers from the other side of the world, asking, can you, we kind of covered your favorite book, but who's your favorite movie character that's not the main trio?
That's a good one.
Yeah, interesting. Movie character is an interesting qualifier there.
For me, it's got to be, I think, like the most interesting character in the books and the movies has to be Snape. I think he's the most complex. Yeah. I think he's the sort of like, you know, Voldemort is so interesting, but he's such a clear-cut villain from the beginning, and Harry is very interesting, but he's such a clear-cut hero, even though, you know, he sort of goes through typical teen stuff. But Snape is so gray and until the very end. And I think, like, you know, one of the last like chapters of the book is when like Harry says, I named you after 2 of the greatest headmasters that Hogwarts has ever seen, or 2 of the greatest like professors it's ever seen. And it's Dumbledore and Snape. Yeah. And I think just he like his whole journey of just what he went through is just so compelling to me.
His first name is Snape.
There's Albus Severus, and a man sitting through 2 plays of Cursed Child where the character's name is Albus Severus. I was like,
I never saw it, so I never tainted. It's
a great show. Ridiculous story that is almost sacrilege, and but worth seeing because it's a well-produced show. I had a great time, but don't just pretend it's like an Elseworld thing that isn't canonically connected, because it'll break your brain. It just will. My favorite character is Minerva McGonagall.
Oh,
I love her in the book. I love the late Dame Maggie Smith's performance of her, and she's just a character who, anytime she's on screen or shows up in the book, you feel okay. You feel like, yes, the teacher who knows what they're doing, who should be running the school.
I hope that they get that caliber of cast for the TV show, because that's insane. The people that are in this, insane.
Yeah,
we talked a little bit about we were talking a little bit on Slack about the Marauders
map.
No,
the group. Right.
The 4 of them.
Right.
Yeah.
James, Peter,
Sirius,
and Remus.
And I think like exploring that time period of the Wizarding world would be really interesting. I don't know if they want to do flashbacks for this series and like get into more of that type of stuff, but like seeing all of the events that happened that led up to, the War of Hogwarts or whatever it's called, I think could be really interesting. I think that like Albus Dumbledore is a character that like could be explored even more. Obviously, they're doing that in some of the Fantastic Beasts movies, but like that Albus abused a child for 7 years, basically because he was like, I need to do this for the greater good and you're going to save the entire world. And I think that's like a really weird moral conundrum to deal with. And so I kind of want to see him like grapple with like, oh, this kid is 11 years old and I'm going to put him through a bunch of bullshit and it's going to be really difficult for this child, but like I need to. So I wouldn't mind seeing some of those things. I think it's an interesting thing that he had to do.
Kind of last question here. Thank you everybody for watching, for asking such great questions. We'll probably do this weekly, so keep an eye out for when we're going to be doing this. Following the release of the breakdown, taking your questions, expanding on your thoughts as we go on this rewatch series together. You guys have watched the breakdown, worked on the breakdown. You've covered all these details and different characters. I just want to ask this final question from Ryan Painter. Who in Harry Potter is most likely to give tiny kisses?
Oh, Harry Potter. He wants to give so many people tiny kisses. He wants to give Cho Chang tiny kisses. He wants to give Ginny Weasley tiny kisses. He wants to give Buckbeak tiny kisses. But I think the person he most wants to give tiny kisses to, because he first told him that he was a wizard, is Hagrid. I think he wants to give tiny kisses to a giant man.
So this is funny because I was going to go with the other way around, which is like if we're doing a sort of like kingpin analogy here, not that Hagrid is villainous, but is big. He's a big boy. So I want to see Hagrid giving out tiny kisses because he's big. He's tiny kisses.
I think Peeves the Poltergeist will give a bunch of tiny kisses. He's always taunting people, but really he just wants a little smooch from everyone.
I think he would give Fred and George tiny kisses because he loves them.
I think Fred and George would give those tiny kisses back.
Oh, me too.
I think Short Stackham in the Twitch chat has the right answer with Dobby giving the tiny kisses.
Oh yeah.
That is for sure the person, at least the character who's giving the tiny.
Which reminds us, we've got our Chamber of Secrets.
Take that sock back.
Chamber of Secrets is going to come out soon. You can see who Dobby gives tiny kisses to.
That's right. I believe, depending on when you're watching it, it'll be on the new Rockstars channel on Saturday. So it's going to be a fun
Saturday.
one.
It's a good one.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap it up here. That's it for us today. Be sure to subscribe to the Breakroom channel on YouTube and give us a follow on Twitch, where we're always live. And follow all of us on our individual social media, but be sure to follow Breakroom NR on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads, and Blue Sky. Are we on Blue Sky now?
And Threads.
Do we make one?
We're
gonna make one.
We're on Blue Sky, but soon.
That's up to you.
We should do it because
We'll make one.
we know someone else will.
Oh God. We put it out.
It's out. We're live right now.
We're gonna have to buy it from someone now. Fuck.
Brandon, if you're still listening, make one now.
Brandon, make one now.
Brandon!
He's like, I already did it. I will sell it to you for $5,000.
Brandon's opened up the second phone in the Uber.
All right, thanks everyone watching Mischief Managed.